For me, this thing that as a child, it didn't have a name. It was, I'm falling behind for an unknown reason. Well, now it has a name. There's a reason why, and now I can start moving forward. Some of the signs that I was losing my vision really kind of started in the first grade. I was playing sports, was missing balls that, normally I would have been catching. I started getting more and more scared at bat. I ended up having to buy a softball helmet that had the kind of face shield because I was getting more nervous about getting hit. My parents knew something was wrong, but it took about 2 years to figure out what that something was. I do remember one doctor, it was a pediatric ophthalmologist, and they pulled up the letters, and I kept on saying, I can't see those. And he started yelling at me saying, I know you just want glasses. I know you can see them. Stop lying. Hard for me to understand that he was saying that I could see when I knew I couldn't. I was at Mass Eye and Ear when they first told me that I had Stargardt's. When you're that young, it's sort of hard to get a grasp on what that really means. You're 8 years old. You think everybody sees how you see. What I see is basically a very colorful dot. It's pretty much all colors in the rainbow. It's sort of always kind of spiraling and shifting. So all I have is peripheral vision. I don't have any central vision. I'd say it probably dawned on me the most I couldn't see was probably when I was 16 and everybody started getting their permits and driver's licenses. And I heard a kid behind me talking about how, like 2 weeks is getting his car and he's so excited to just the freedom that it comes with and how he's gonna be able to just drive around and do whatever he wants. And I remember I had to get up and leave the class because it was sort of that moment where I knew that, I always have a motto, I can do anything anybody else can, I just have to find my own way. But I knew that one was gonna be a tough one to circumnavigate. So then I started, getting into ATVs, snowmobiles, boating, jet skiing. Those were all vehicles that I found, with some help that I could still operate. I wanted to get a guide dog kind of as soon as I could because I think guide dogs are very good, kind of warm examples of being visually impaired. Guiding Eyes paired us together. They asked if there was any type of dog that I would like, and personality-wise, I said, I'd love a dog that is hardworking, but also off harness is a bit goofy. And my trainer said, I think I know the dog. I definitely do have days where it's tough. As long as you can try and, think about that, there's always, it always could be worse, and being open, say, look, this happened today. And honestly, yeah, it does suck being blind today. And, that's a very real day. How I build myself up if I'm feeling down is, trying to do something that I love, a hobby, or just trying to reach out to a friend or family member. What kind of got me into where I'm at now with my business is jet skis and really kind of all recreational vehicles became very special to me because, they gave me this freedom that I was really looking for and kind of lost in not being able to drive. But I realized from, working on them that they were harming the environment more than I really cared for. So I decided to do something about it. I think being visually impaired lines up with being an entrepreneur. The core aspect of being an entrepreneur is finding a problem and then creating a solution for it. So, considering that was most of my life, may it be, how do I drive? How do I go through mechanical engineering school? How do I hang out with friends and get to friends and read off a menu? Those are all problems that I had to find solutions for. So, I think just being an entrepreneur is just continuing that. My advice to a parent for somebody who's just diagnosed would be, for starters, it's not over. Your child can absolutely do anything they want to do and still be successful. What I would say your child very well could be feeling is, maybe a little bit of despair. So, just be there for them, but also still let them be a person. Try and treat them like you would any other child. My philosophy is, I can do anything anybody else can, just might have to find my own path. So that hasn't stopped me from, doing the activities that I love to do. Traveling, I've been to about 18 different countries. If I've ever wanted to do something, I just do it because there's no reason why not. My name is Jack, and I'm living with Stargardt's disease.